to ask Pastor Scott to come up and stand by me. I'm going to give you a little bit of my story. Pastor Scott, yes. I've known him since he was like 15 years old, so yes, I'm saying that to make you feel guilty. No. I spent a lot of years in this place, and thank you for standing there. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story of those years and after. You won't be here all day, I promise. I'm going to make this short. But God has been so good to my family. I moved to Branson in 1985 with my husband, David, and our 2 little kids who were they were babies when we moved to Branson. The first year I was here, I remember knocking on the door of 2 wonderful people and handing them an album and say, if you ever need a female singer, call me. 2 years later, they did. And that was Pat and Gary Presley. And they gave me the opportunity to sing in this great place. I don't know how many shows we did here. Over 11 years, we did a lot. But it was a wonderful opportunity to be part of this family and to sing on this show. My husband, David, was a great entertainer, great singer, funny comedian. He started a show across the street at the Plummer Theater, what used to be the Plummer Theater, and it was called the Ozark Mountain Opry Show. He had that show for 2 years, and the Presleys, after the second year, because it was a real successful matinee, the Presleys invited them to come here and be part of the theater, which they had never done before that I know of. And so David was coming to have the matinee here. And y'all bear with me this morning. This is very special, being in this place telling this story, because it started right here. David it was in 1990, March 26th. He was up here on this stage practicing for his show. And they were so excited to open here. They were opening on Friday of that next week. They had the matinee. I was sitting right back there watching as they practiced the show. I went home to get my little boy Colt. He was a little boy at the time. Get him ready for kindergarten and send him off to school. David came home from rehearsal, and we were sitting there talking. And one thing I forgot to say, he was a volunteer firefighter. He loved that side. He loved helping people, rescuing people, whatever he could do to help. He was there. Plus, he loved the fun of it. And David, while we were sitting there that afternoon, David got a phone call that there were 2 young men stranded on Baird Mountain over here on 165. And he answered the call. What I didn't know is when I kissed him bye that day, that it would have been for the last time. I was sitting there, did my typical thing, went to the grocery store, got hamburgers, got stuff to fix for supper. When I walked in from the grocery store, I heard the scanner go off that someone had fallen off of Baird Mountain. I knew it was my husband. They didn't say who he was, but David had gone to rescue 2 young men who were stranded on the mountain, and he was 80 feet in the air when his rope broke. And I remember thinking, like I said, I knew it was him. I remember thinking, Lord, what in the world how will he do the show on Friday? I didn't know what had happened. I was thinking, he'll do it in a wheelchair if he has to. And he would have. About an hour later, after they had gotten some things done, the fire chief came and he said, you need to go to the hospital in Springfield. So my friend Donna Dalton was with me that day, took me up there. And when I walked in, they made me fill out all the paperwork, and I was mad because I thought, why in the world? I just want to get in there to him. But they took me in a room, and the doctor just said, he didn't make it. What do you do? What do you do when you're 32 years old and your 33-year-old husband is gone? He was a hero. Everybody loved him. He was fun. How in the world would I live without him? How would I raise Mandy and Colt, who were 6 and 8 at the time, without him? Came home from the hospital, still in really denial. And my house was right over here. Am I pointing the right way? My house was right over here, just really on the other side of the theater. The road was lined with people already, there to take care of us, to be there for us. Why I want you to stand here, Colt. I called you Colt. Why I want you to stand here, Scott, is you represent a family that stood by us during the hardest time of our lives. Your mom and dad, all the family, they came in. Pat, I'll never forget the times that you talked to me in the middle of the night and hugged me. All of you. This place was a refuge. And you know, I know you don't want the glory for that. I give glory for God the glory for that, because He was good to put me in a place where people surrounded me. Through those years, I was here. It was right in the middle of my 11 seasons here that happened. Through the rest of that time, the Presley family stood by my family and I kept the kids in church. We all went to church together. And God was so faithful to my children to be able to come here and make this a home for them. And I thank you guys. I thank you all. Thank you for that time. And you guys have no idea what a absolute honor it is to be sharing this story right now. And I'm not saying it to make anybody sad. And it was a terribly sad time. But I want to tell you, my two children who were 6 and 8 when their daddy died are 35 and 36 years old now. My son, Colt, is a full-time music minister in Oklahoma City. He was in Branson as an entertainer for a while. My daughter is a worship leader at James River in Springfield. You know, it could have turned out so differently. And I thank God for putting us in this place and giving them a family, giving them a home. Thank you so much for giving them a place to come when I was at work and they could run around and be part of this family. I'm saying this not to just tell you about my story, but you may be here this morning and have gone through similar circumstances. You may have lost someone in your family that you have no idea how you're going to make it without. Or you may be facing a sickness that you don't know how it's going to turn out. Well, let me tell you, we serve a faithful God. The rest of my story is when I left here, I became a music minister at a church here in town, much like this. And I was there for many years until I met the greatest man who ever walked on the face of the earth, who I married in 2004. My kids call him Daddy. He walked my daughter down the aisle. He's a daddy to my kids now. Nobody ever replaced David. They never will. But he is a dad to my kids now. He's a grandpa to our grandkids who now have 7 kids. Our little family of 3, that was pretty sad for a while, wasn't it? Now there's 13 of us. And God's so good. God restores, and whatever you need in your life, folks, He is faithful. If you're sick, believe Him. He is going to heal you. If you need comfort, if you've lost somebody in your family, God is your comforter. Surround yourself with people who will keep you in line. I needed that. I wish I'd listened a little more than I did. I'd have been a lot better off, but that's another story. God is faithful. And put yourself with people. If you need somebody around you, find a godly person. Find a godly family that will take you and keep you in line and surround you and hug you and love you. Because they are God sent. This song was written by a man who, I can't even imagine what he was going through. He lost 4 daughters, all 4 of his kids at one time. Can't imagine that happening to me, but people can't understand what happened to us either. But let me tell you, if you will keep your eyes on the Lord and you will stay faithful to Him, you can say truly, it is well with my soul. when peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. Sing along. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when my faith shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as the scroll, the trumpet shall sound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. Sing it out, church. It is well with my soul. With my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. Sing it one more time, just the voices. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. Amen.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.